Mowry, and this is Curatorial Knits. It is a knitting podcast where I talk about the choices that I make with my knitting and sometimes designing. I am back and it feels so good to sit down and connect and get all into it. So thank you so much for pushing play on this thumbnail. I really missed you. And if this is your first time joining Curatorial Knits, please be very welcome. And you can always hit the subscribe button so you know when I post new videos. I will say that I post on a not regular schedule. So it's nice to sometimes have those reminders because sometimes there's 3 weeks in between a post and sometimes it's a little more like 6, which is what we're doing today. It's a big catch up, end of the summer. My kiddos just started school and I have a new adventure with my work life I'm really excited about, which will be starting next month as well. For those of you who know, my handle is called Curatorial Knits because I worked for many years as an art curator, both in art museums at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and in the gallery space, and now potentially in another space, which I don't think I'm going to talk about right now just because it's so fresh and new and I don't really know what it will be like. So I will be talking about that next time if all goes well. In the meantime, I have been having so much fun with my knitting. It has not been as, I don't know, I would just say my pace has kind of changed now that I've been designing more. And I'll talk about this later, but honestly, there's part of me that's really ready to just sit down and make something. And I really love being able to do that with my patterns, and yeah, we'll see why that is in just a second. So without further ado, what am I wearing? This is the t-shirt version of the Curator Sweater, which came out in May. Yeah, in May. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because my hair is nutty. I'm getting it cut and figured out hopefully at the end of this week, but for right now it's like in a weird stage. Sorry, I hate it when people talk about their hair. I don't know why I did that. Probably because I'm just talking so fast and getting so excited about everything that's happening. Anyway, Curator Sweater. This is the kind of signature construction that I came out with last spring. And I have now made, I think this is number 5, and probably my most worn because of the season, and definitely my most worn knit top or t-shirt. I love it. I talked about it as a finished object last time, but it was like just done blocking, so I think I just inserted a photo of me wearing it, but I didn't wear it during filming. And it is just the perfect t-shirt. I mean, the range of motion is amazing. The shoulder cap I just love. And it's a short sleeve, but it gives me enough coverage where I feel like it's a little bit, not professional, but yeah, professional. Like I think I could definitely pull this off in a more kind of upscale setting, but I also just throw it on with like jean shorts and it's so nice. And the fabric is one that a lot of folks who are doing the Curator Cal over the summer who are making t-shirts have also used, and the results have been phenomenal. So this is like my new favorite summer yarn hack. It's basically like creating our own custom blend. It's 1 strand of merino cotton and 1 strand of pure silk. And in this case, they're both from Knitting for Olive, and I'm holding those 2 together. I will say that I just saw on Instagram that Knitting for Olive is pausing all of its US shipments. Man, just one more, small detail that's really impacting everyone. These days are still such a wild ride, but I wanted to say I think there is still quite a bit of stock at your local yarn store and the larger yarn providers as well. So for yarn that is currently in the United States. I think it's, you know, there's limited, but obviously some availability. It's getting things shipped actually from Knitting for Olive that is becoming really problematic. And I really hope that it gets worked out as swiftly as possible. I really, really love this combination. I think you could do it with other brands of yarn, obviously, as well. And I just think that there's just enough elasticity from that wool that you really keep the structure of the garment and it has enough play, but you also get that lovely drape from the silk. So really, really, truly one of my favorite things I've made. And I frankly I don't know if I was expecting it to be so. I think my knitted tees and tops, some I get really excited about making and don't necessarily wear as much, and this is just getting so much wear and I'm so delighted with it. So yeah, loving this. My next FO, I wasn't gonna try on because it's a pretty warm day today, but I think I could probably pull it off. It's nice and cool at the moment. So hold on one second and I will pop it on. Ta-da! Okay, so this is my Boylan Orchard version again of the Curator sweater. So this is the same pattern as the t-shirt, believe it or not. Exact same pattern. Obviously a very different garment. This is knit in one strand of Boylan Knitworks, Bonnard Orchard. Sorry, why is that name escaping me? It will be in the description box below. I've spoken about it at length. It's a farm yarn. I bought it Rhinebeck last year. I really, really loved working with it, though it was much stiffer on the hand. The drape on this bad boy after blocking, it's truly a dream. So it's one strand of their DK, which is I think a bit of a lighter DK, and then one strand of the, shoot, now I'm gonna worry that it's a sport. No, I think it's DK. This is what it looks like. And I held it with one strand of a Verb for Keeping Warm's mohair, which is called Frond. Yes, Fern and Frond. I think it's Frond, and in the color Natural. So let me just say how much I love this version of the sweater, and I think this might be my favorite, even over the original that I made, not in terms of the fabric necessarily, though I love this fabric as well, but I think I made it fit just a little bit differently. So I made a size 3 sweater and I used size 1 bust shaping, which you can kind of barely see here, but it just makes such a better drape. I continued the cables all the way down the sides, and I'll put some pictures and maybe some a short video of me wearing it over here so you can see the whole thing on. And I think what makes this version, I did not make it quite as long, and I also feel like because it's a plumper yarn, it is a little bit wider the garment itself is just a little bit wider. So it's just a different effect. This has more structure. It's not quite as drapey. You know, the Sonder Sport Luxe has just a beautiful, amazing amount of kind of drape and movement to it, while this feels a little bit more structured and kind of square. And it feels so good on. I am starting to get a little warm. I will be taking it off, but I also think that I did a better job in my sleeve decreases. I was really still experimenting. This is the rate of decrease that's in the pattern, but I was still really experimenting with the decrease rate, I think, when I made the original sample, and this just is working out perfectly. So you still get that wonderful structured shoulder with really great arm movement. And I know that twisted rib can sometimes be a bit of a thing, but boy, does it look sharp. I really, really am so happy with this piece, and I'm seriously looking forward to it getting cold so I have more opportunities to wear it. It also feels, I would say really, and my original did too, I think it's a really fun to knit sweater that also feels quite put together and polished. So I really love that about it. It's simple and kind of classic, but I think a little bit more sophisticated too. And I think that really is a great expression for this beautiful yarn, and I'm so happy about it. And I think this will probably be the last of the Curator pullovers I'll be making for a while. I still can't believe I've made so many. To be fair, one was not for me and two were t-shirts, but still, it feels really, really good to just feel like I kind of explored all of these different ways to express the pattern. And if you haven't checked out the, what's it called? The pattern project pages on Ravelry or the Instagram hashtag, the Curator Sweater Cal, sorry, so it's like hashtag Curator Sweater KAL. There's some really, really fun stuff on there, and I really encourage you to take a peek. So this is finished object number 1. Probably one of my favorite things I've ever made. And we're about to do finished object number 2, which is definitely in the top, like this, I think both of these pieces are in the top like 3 to 5 things I've ever made. And I made both of them at the same time. And it's like wildly inappropriate weather to be wearing them right now. And so it's really funny. I've just been like looking at them. Is that like part of the joy I feel like of this craft is that it's a visual thing. So when you're wearing your knits, it feels really good. But also sometimes it feels really good just to look at them with like that sense of like joy, and you remember the process, but also you're really appreciative of the product. I don't know. I don't think that's just me, right? That's just a maker thing. That's just a creativity thing, I think. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna put on the next thing, and then I think I will have to change back to my t-shirt because I'm starting to get a little toasty. 1 second. Hello again. Okay, dear and darling knitters, this is it. This is the Color Compass sweater or pullover. I don't know. It doesn't have an official title yet. It doesn't have a lot of things yet. I will talk you a little bit through the construction, the chart, which you can see goes down like this, and then we'll talk like process and design stuff, if that sounds okay. So I love color work, and more than anything about the color work process, I think I love most of all putting together these palettes in relationship to the color work charts. So really starting to kind of, I feel like I've gotten to a place as a knitter where I'm really digging into and starting to understand more and more about how especially how these patterns relate to color schema. And so I wanted to play with that and also offer a kind of guide through that. And that's the kind of idea of the compass, basically a way to help folks navigate color choices when it comes to color work. And so to do that, I picked out these colors that are based on an amazing palette from Nutiden, or made in Nutiden yarn from Honor Ak Air. And I'll just get out my my little palette here so you can see what the inspiration was, and then we will talk maybe at length about the next version and next steps, because I do think this is going to be more of a process. So basically, in order to make this garment, I recommend, and again, this is not like, as you'll see in our next conversation, this is just a recommendation, and part of the joy of being a knitter is creating your own systems and your own intuitive decisions around the colors that you choose. But for folks who are looking for a guide, the guide that I'm offering is 1 main color and 4 contrast colors. For recommended, not in any way necessary, to be in relationship to each other. So in this case, we have a light blue and a dark blue, and a light pink and a dark pink. I do think that it's helpful for your main color to both work, play well with all of these, and also to have your main color be either the lightest color in your palette or the darkest color in your palette. And we'll be talking more about that in a little bit as well. And what that does is that it allows then the color play to really be in relationship. All in this case, all 5 colors are then able to be in relationship with one another. I saw something recently that I don't have a visual of, but I'm going to hopefully explain in a way that makes sense. And it's going to start out sounding like it has no connection to choosing colors for sweater patterns, but it's basically a math problem. And it's setting up the situation it's asking the question, how many people would have to be in a room in order for at least 50% of them to have the same birthdays. So basically, like, what are the odds of 4 people in a room having the same birthday versus the odds of 24 people in a room having the same birthday? And what's so interesting about this, and my apologies because I'm worried that I'm not going to be explaining this in the most helpful way, but basically the more people you add to the room, you don't just get one more opportunity. Like, every time one person enters the room, you don't just get one more opportunity for there to be a shared birth date. You get a multiple or exponential growth of that because of their relationship with all the other folks in the room, right? So that's not just one looking for one. Now you have one looking to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so there's more opportunities again and again and again. And what's interesting about this is that it was explained in the context of why you don't have as much time as you might think you do, because it's not just about adding one more thing to your to-do list. It's about how that one more thing to your to-do list relates to all the other things on your to-do list. That's just like what we're talking about with our color choices, right? So it's not just about the relationship between your main color and your darker color A or your darker color B. It's about your relationship between the main color and each of these individually, as well as what it means for them as a whole. And so having that in your head, I think, really can help us set the stage for making those choices. It's also really helpful because if you wanted to, it would be quite easy to combine, basically say, no, instead of 2 of this kind of color and 2 of this kind of color, I'm just going to do 1 of each and then my main color. That would be quite easy for you to do as well and turn it into a 3-color color work chart. So again, I'm very excited about being folks' guide in color work selection and having the color compass be that piece that really gets people excited about color selection and also gives folks that real kind of directional guidance again to finding something that works really beautifully and that they frankly love, because color work is such a labor of love, and we want to make sure that we totally, totally adore the finished product. So that's color selection about it. Construction wise, it starts off with a little kind of mock neck. It's a very simple circular yoke, except I did make some choices when it comes to the rate of increase. So a lot of circular yokes have a rate of increase that goes, how do I explain this? The increase rate is fairly static around the circumference, but this one is not. So it increases quite slowly at first and then very quickly for the shoulders, and this shoulder increase stays wider, and then as soon as you split, but it does not get wider as you go down the sleeve. So sorry, this was folded, so there is a little pucker there, but I swear it's just because this was folded. Basically, you're going to split for sleeves right here, and your increase rate slows down in this last little bit, even though you haven't split yet. So that is, I think, really key to making sure that you have a nice arm fit, and also that it is wide enough for your shoulders. Once you've split for sleeves though, I do think it's nice to continue the color work down a little bit, because it also gives folks more flexibility if they need to increase more along the bust line after the sleeve split. So that was really important to me to be able to do, and it's very intuitive. The color work charts, I think, I have to say that was one of the most fun. It's so much fun to play with those charts and to just kind of move things around and see how the math works with the different pattern constructions. And yeah, that was a huge, huge joy of that project. So you can see there's actually increases within this arrow section that I really, really love. They look very, like, it's very hard to tell they're there, but they are. And I think it's really fun. There's some short rows in the back. I think I will add one more repeat of them for the finished pattern and for my next sample. I think this is resting really quite nicely, but I also think that it could be a little bit more elevated in the back. So I want to do one more repeat of that and see if that works for my size, and change the pattern for that. And then the sleeves are so much fun. I basically these are just straight tubes and then a quick decrease and a little bit of a longer cuff. But I think that it really elevates the entire piece and just makes it feel a little bit more kind of party special. This one has my giant watch underneath it, so it's maybe harder to tell there. You can still really see. And I have to say, I love the fabric of the single strand and the double strand of the Nutiden. It feels so good. It's a really simple 1x1 rib to finish. And then I was playing around with trying to do a tubular bind off in one strand of Nutiden, and it just, no, no thank you. I'm sure it's possible, and if you would like to do that, you absolutely should. I did do a tubular cast on the neck just because I think it makes it really flexible but also quite pretty. So that worked out well. And then I just did a regular bind off on the cuffs and the hem. And that's the color compass, and I love it. And it needs quite a bit of work in just straight like pattern writing. Like writing the pattern for this piece is not like overly difficult, particularly because the construction is really straightforward. You know, folks are going to be reading a chart to find their increases, but doing the grading for it and getting it ready to be tech edited, I probably need a few days just to do that. And I'll be very honest, I don't know when that will be. I had really, really hoped to have a test knit announcement attached to showing this final object. I just don't think that that would be responsible because I don't know when the pattern will be ready. So I am hoping that it could be in the next couple of weeks, and September 1 would be a great kind of launch of when I just put up another quick video asking folks to commit to the test. I always send also test requests to my newsletter subscribers, so there'll be a link down below if you'd like to subscribe to the newsletter. It's basically just a little like summary of things that some things that I like on the internet, and also when I post new videos, I always include those links as well as the test calls. So if you would like to be a tester, please make sure that you are subscribed to the newsletter. Again, that will be linked below, and I will try to get that call out before this other thing happens in the next couple of weeks. That's my goal. But I also know that might not be possible. So I'm trying my very, very best to be more aware of how much I can actually get done. And it's a journey and a process. So there's that. I will say though that I love this, that I'm low-key obsessed, and I really want to make another one. So that's our next juncture. I have a couple of ideas. And I can, how should I do this? So I will say also, I'm very tempted to make the Andrea Mowry Rhinebeck sweater because I like the idea of these like curves rather than more like straight line geometries. And I think that would be really fun to make. Obviously, I'm a spin cycle girly. I love my spin cycle, and I have a lot that I want to use. And then as I was thinking about that, I thought I really want to make another one of these. Color Compass works, and I think I might want to try to use spin cycle in this. So it would not in any way, like, it would be a very different looking garment, but I think it could be super, super fun and cool, and also just show how flexible all of these colorwork patterns can be. So, oh shoot, I forgot to talk about my WIP. What should we do? We'll do that at the end, because we're in color land now. We'll just stick with it. Okay, so color land. Should I just? I'm just gonna start holding things up and talking you through. I have 4 different in stash. The great thing about having such a big stash is it's always like, it's like shopping. So I do have 4 possible combinations, 3 with spin cycle, 1 without. The one without I think will be either the 2nd or the 3rd color compass, and then one of the 3 will be for a color compass and spin cycle, and then one of the 3 would be for Ooey Gooey if I have time to cast it on before Rhinebeck. So I will say I am going to Rhinebeck again this year. I'm super, super excited. We already booked the house. I booked the tickets back, I think in like May or June. I'm so stoked on it. And it was actually like one of my points of negotiation for what's coming up next is I was like, BTW, I will be away. This is incredibly important to me. Like, can we still make this work? So that is happening. All right, so let's talk color palettes. My first option, and also some of this is like deep stash that I've been holding out on because very special yarn. It's all special yarn, like all of it is, but for whatever reason, I just haven't been able to kind of make myself cast on with it. You'll also notice that I'm cheating a lot with the gauge of these. The gauge for the gauge for the color compass is very flexible. I think this is like 18 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. 97% sure that's right. It's either 18 or 19. And you could 100% do it at 20. I think that it would be perfect at like 20. And I think I want my next one to be at 20 on the nose. I will say I think also there's a slight, I don't know what it is with Nutiden. It's so flexible that it really does kind of do something different and puff out to different size gauges depending on your needle size. So I will also double check that, because now that I'm thinking out loud, I think this is also at 20. Not 100% sure. I don't know. That's like important information. I apologize. I will put down below here my own self-corrective information. But needless to say, I am being super, I don't want to say manipulative, but yeah, actually manipulative with my gauge by bulking out and thinning out the yarns by holding the spin cycle dyed in the wool with a fluff. So if you have seen my, what's it called again? My Easy V, the Caitlin Hunter Easy V pattern, I used a spin cycle yarn, but I held, and and I did it for the other Caitlin Hunter colorwork pattern, the Alpen Bloom. Same thing. I held a strand of mohair or Surrey alpaca with the spin cycle, and so it really created that kind of nice transition, and it bulked out that spin cycle sport weight, which I find fairly thin, so that it really matched the yarns that I was holding it with. So anyway, that's how I'm kind of manipulating the spin cycle and the gauge to fit either this or the Ooey Gooey, which is a sport weight pattern from Andrea Mowry. Okay, sorry, that was a lot. Diving into actually holding up yarn colors now. So the first is this incredible Elmer, deep, deep green. It's looking much darker on camera. There you can kind of see, yeah, this beautiful Elmer fingering from Diamond Lane. This is a merino cashmere blend. So luxe, so nice. 400 yards for 100 grams. And this is the colorway Spruce. So this is a puffy and sticky and halo-y fingering yarn that I think would do beautifully as a sport weight. And I would be holding it with, this is the custom colorway called Sunday Morning for Sonder yarn from Spin Cycle. And it's like I was thinking about doing the tessellated in this, and I don't know what I was going to hold it with, but I don't think it was this. So anyway, it goes from green and blues to pink, and I love this combo. I think this could be really, really special. And again, I'd be holding the spin cycle with a fluffy yarn to create the kind of heftier gauge that it might need to hold up to the Elmer, which has quite a big halo on it. So this is one color combination. And I do really like, I will say, I really want to do my next color compass with a dark main color to really see and explore how that shifts the pattern work. So that's one option. Okay, the other one. This is Deep Stash, and this is really a DK weight yarn. So this would be an interesting kind of futzing around with gauge option as well. This is a merino DK. It's superwash yarn, so not necessarily, I know, best practice for color work. but it really feels like it has enough stick on it. This is La Bien-Aimée, and the color is Amaige. I just, you know, I'm a sucker for these blues. And then I'd pair it with this crazy Ghost Ranch color way that I got from A Verb for Keeping Warm about a year ago now, I want to say. And it is just full of light blues and browns. And it goes through this incredible like pinky brown here that I think would pair so beautifully with this. Here's another kind of close guy. So you can see the darker sections would have less contrast, obviously, with this dark color, but I still think it would be really, really fun to explore. This would probably be a better fit in terms of the kinds of mohair that I have, so that could actually help create that distinction and a little bit more contrast there as well. So that's another option. Option 3, I know I already have a colorwork sweater in this color. This is Bitterroot Bear Paw DK from Farmer's Daughter. The fact of the matter is I love that. It's my sheep camp sweater, and I really, really do love the way that it looks, and this color is quite nice, I think, on me. And then I'd be pairing that with, in this case, I would not be holding a fluff because this is a this is the Dream State version of Spin Cycle, and it's very kind of dark. You can really see the barber pulling a lot more here, but I still think that could be really interesting. And then the last color combo, excuse me, I will be digging in a bag. One moment. The last color combo, this I already kind of have picked out in my mind. I really, for this color compass pattern, I want to make a brown version. And I want to hold it with my, I have all of this amazing Assyrian color, Assyrian mohair in a color that I didn't end up using for another project, and I just love this color. So I would really, really like to do that. And then I would hold it with a, sorry, the other colors that would go with this are nice dark teal, always have to have dark teal. Maroon, I know there's not a lot of contrast there, but we would probably get there. Here's the light teal. And then where did it go? Aha, yeah. And then it was gonna be something kind of like this. Yes? Yes, do we love? I mean, I'm really digging it. Sorry, it's hard to see everything together. But I was a little worried this was too close to the pinks from this one, but seeing it with the green blues, I actually think it's pretty great. And then again, here's my neutral in the middle, and it really goes so nicely with all 4 of the other colors. So that's happening. That's happening for sure. Execution, TBD. I would love to know though, particularly with the spin cycles, what you guys think would be the best option. I would love to do all of them, but I have really severely limited my knitting time. It's like contracted pretty significantly. And so like I said, I'm trying my best to be really honest about what I can actually get done and like finding out what my priorities are. Because usually I'm like, you know, follow the inspiration, grab the next thing, say yes to everything. That's kind of my whole personality. But I truly I can't do that and be present with the other things that are currently happening in my life, including both my kids now in elementary school, which is amazing and wild. I'm so proud of them. They're just such incredible humans, and I kind of can't believe I get to hang out with them every day. It's really wild and inspiring, and yeah, so there's a lot going on, and it also feels really like it's imperative that I keep this creativity going. And it's more about trying to find not just like little pockets of time, but particularly for things like the pattern writing, I really need these more just like longer moments. Knitting's such a great activity in so many ways, because in the actual act of doing it, when you're following someone else's pattern, it's so easy to just kind of pick things up and put things down and, oh, where was I? Oh, okay, I'm back. And then you can go for 15 minutes if you have 15 minutes, an hour if you have an hour, watch a whole movie if you want. There's really that kind of extension of what you can do versus, pattern writing, where I feel like I really need these extended periods of time to kind of like really dig in and see where I am and where I need to go and do math. And that's not something I can really pick up and put down rather. So that's something I'm trying to figure out as I go. Speaking of, I really need to talk about the Curator Cardigan. So this was inspired by my desire for a oversized navy cardigan that would fit well in my shoulders. And I also wanted to knit up very quickly, because I don't love knitting flat. It's just not my favorite. I'm going to be honest. Not my favorite thing to do. So I wanted it to be at a pretty chunky gauge, and I wanted it to feel amazing. And I gotta say, guys, it's happening. So the feel amazing bit was easy, I have to say, the easiest part of this whole process. The feel amazing bit, super, super easy. That's because I am using Sonder yarn again, and I am using the amazing Sunday Morning DK, which is 75% BFL, 25% Masham, and I'm holding it with not the mohair, but the Surrey alpaca, which I think just adds the most delicious texture. It is so soft. The combination of these yarns together will literally like make you cry. It's so nice, you guys. It is truly beyond. It's truly beyond. So I just made a baby swatch. I made a baby swatch because I was so excited to get started with the straight knitting, and oh my gosh, it is so amazing. The drape is phenomenal, but it has enough structure from that BFL Masham that it's just like, this is going to wear so well. This is like a heirloom piece you'll wear forever and ever and ever. So exciting. Okay, so how am I making the same thing as, just a second, how am I doing this shoulder construction? Here, sorry, I still have an end weave in the collar. How am I going to make this shoulder construction work on a cardigan? It's actually not that different. The key, though, is the collar and the button band. So I tried a few different things, but I really did not want, because, you guys all saw me with the press flowers. Like, how long did it take me to do that gosh darn button band? Like, once I was done knitting the sweater, mentally, it was really tough for me to pick up all those stitches and do it. And I also will say that I love the integrated button band on my it's called Turtle Dove cardigan, which is by Melissa from Sonder Yarn, and it has an integrated button band in it. I think it works beautifully. Obviously that's a raglan construction, so it's just a very different way of putting together the garment. So I'm trying to, and I think I have now succeeded at combining these two ideas. And it's again one of those pieces where it might look a little nutty before you get going, but once you're in it, you're truly in it. And I just realized, sorry, please hold collar. I need to get across this row, or else this is not going to make any sense when I hold up the swatch. It's a short row though. It's just the little forward band piece. So not to worry. I will also say that some of this yarn has a bunch of puppy love on it. The puppy is no longer really a puppy. He's almost 5 months old now. He's such a great doggy. It's really, truly changed our lives, but I think every member of our family will say for the better. The first few weeks there, whew, oh my gosh. It was right when I was launching the Curator Sweater too, and I was like, I'm never gonna sleep again. How is this ever going to work? It reminded me, to be honest, so much of my kids' like baby days, and those, like, it's basically like speed running parenthood when you think about it. Okay, now we're back. Sorry about that. Here we go. So you start the construction for the Curator cardigan in the same way that you create the back panel on the sweater. That is going to feel basically the same if you've already made the sweater. So with this piece, okay, so that is this section right here. Doop-a-doo, do-do-do-do-do, and here are your increases. The great thing though is this will take you much less time because the gauge is so lovely. Next, you're gonna start by making a little strip of fabric for your collar. And this strip of fabric is gonna start with a provisional cast on. That's what's right here. So we're knitting this direction, and you're just going back and forth in twisted rib. It's very hard to see because it's dark. I know. This is like, I'm just making my navy cardigan dreams come true. Trust me, it all works. And then when you're done making your strip of fabric, that's the same length as from the middle of the back panel to where you pick up for your shoulder bands. These are the same technique as in the sweater. You pick up for that shoulder band, you knit down, but as you knit down, you got a buddy. You've got your collar and soon button band buddy. So as you start making increases on this shoulder band, you already have your collar. So I'm just gonna lay this on my back so you really get a sense of how this works, all right? So this is my collar. And it's coming down like so. Here's my collar stitches. And then, see, there's the back, and this is how it's coming forward. So this is going to, we're gonna keep increasing here. This is gonna be a V-neck, and it's gonna be quite low. And yeah, I'm super, super excited about the whole thing. It is definitely a different process. I'm thinking like knitting flat designing is in some ways very similar, but in other ways, like the math, I have to kind of like make sure, well, I guess for this part of the yoke, it's not that different. But in general, it's been a big kind of rethinking in terms of the structure and the math and getting everything right. So there has been a lot of tearing out and a lot of reknitting and a lot of getting everything straight because, again, the gauge is different than it was for the Curator sweater. And so obviously all of those numbers are different. I also am not doing cables on this version. I really went back and forth about it. Frankly, I just think that in the navy, it was going to be really hard to see. I know in my husband's navy version, I did start doing the cables and it was just, they just like were disappearing. So I am not doing cables on this first sample version. This is really, frankly, like a way for me to make sure that the construction works. And like, there are moments too where I was like, I don't know, maybe this isn't a sweater. What is this? It's just like pieces of random fabric and string all kind of connected. I mean, like, there are too many wires here. I will say though that I'm happy with the way I've described how to do this. I think that that has really been an interesting part of this process where I feel like I have some like it's that translation. Of course, now I'm like having trouble with words, but I think I have been able to really translate what looks very much not like a sweater into directions that I think will be really helpful. Also, of course, there will be visuals because that's one of the quickest ways that I see in terms of like getting a benchmark of where I'm going. So this is the Curator cardigan. This is another place where I really don't know what my bandwidth will be in terms of how I'm going to design, how much time I'm going to have for designing and testing this piece. I honestly, like, if I'm being very honest, I don't see this coming out until like probably after the new year. Someone was recently in touch with me on DMs. I've gotten actually more DMs about this cardigan project than any of my other projects. But someone most recently reached out just to say like, hey, I need a cardigan. Should I wait for yours? And I want to be very honest and say like, if you want a cardigan for Christmas, you should probably find a different pattern. And I hate saying that. Like, that's so hard. When I was first thinking about thinking about the summer and everything that I was going to get done and how I was going to have this in testing in early August, and then I was going to have it, launch in the fall, and then I was going to have this in testing in the fall, and then it was going to launch right around Christmas time and be like, that is not true. That just isn't possible. So I don't know the exact timeline on either of these projects. I'm very hopeful that the pattern will be ready for testing for this piece in September, and that we can start that test off and have a really fun time with it. I cannot wait. When I tell you that I cannot wait to see what people like choose for their colors, like that is, oh my God. Like truly, I'm so excited. And then I want to actually like finish knitting this over the course of the fall, and then I want to give myself enough time to really work on the pattern to make sure, again, the instructions really make sense, that it feels intuitive, and that it gives people a lot of confidence when they're working on it. Because I think that's one of the big like takeaways of the Curator sweater is that, I mean, I got another DM actually about the Curator Sweater just this morning of someone telling me that they are working on their 4th version. People love this construction and it really, really works. And also they love, I think, being able to feel like there's guidance in terms of making it different, whether it's the t-shirt version, whether it's, you know, extending the cable, whether it's making the lace panels, or just knitting it plain as their kind of vanilla sweater, just like you might have a vanilla sock. I think that has been so inspiring, and it's also because of the way the pattern is written, right? Like the actual instructions make sense for people and they're able to move through them in a way that gives them that sense of ownership and really authority over their own knitting. So they get to make those choices. And so they want to do it again, which I absolutely love. I feel like it's been so amazing. That said, because this is even more, and I think it's just because of the collar piece being kind of like, trust me, it works. Because of that, I really want to give people that same sense of confidence and accomplishment so that it's a fun process. Like, I don't want this to be arduous or to feel bad for anyone ever. So I really want to make sure that I'm able to dedicate the writing time to making the language as clear and helpful and empowering as I can, because that's one of my favorite things about knitting. Okay, so that's me. That's what's happening. It is such a wild ride. I would love to see you guys again very, very soon, and I'm hoping that I will. I am gonna take the bear paw off the table. I'm just looking down at it. I'm gonna take it off the table. I really, truly, though, do need help for these 2 options. Okay, do I do ooey gooey or compass in blue or green? We can just call this one blue, this one green. Blue or green? Blue or green? What should we do? I'm kind of leaning towards the green just because I also don't have any green sweaters that are like this dark, dark green. And I feel like as much as it's like very fall and autumnal, like I worried that this was too spring-like, but I think with this, it's still gonna be enough like dark stormy vibes that it'll feel like fall. But I have to say, like, this is much more autumnal, right? With all the browns, and even though there's blue in it, I feel like there's still all of this great rust color as well. Though maybe I should worry that I'm knitting a colorwork sweater in superwash. Like, why am I doing that? It's because the color's so perfect. Look at that. So fun. And really dark, too. I had a moment where I was like, why not this? But I think there's too much of the dark color of this leans really brown green, and so I'll have no contrast. Anyway, I could do this all day, as you know, but I won't. I will say goodbye. I will say thank you again for being here, for subscribing, for commenting, for supporting each other. I love it when y'all get into it in the comments and talk about what you're making, and then somebody else says, oh, I love that, I did this with it. Check out my project page. So much fun. Thanks for inspiring me and others. Everything that you make is important, and every stitch is a way of putting yourself out into the world. I'm so glad that you do. It's such a better place because of you. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you guys very, very soon. Bye.